It was 1941. The world was at war. America needed to move steel, coal, and soldiers faster than ever before. But there was one problem: the Rocky Mountains. Every train that tried to cross them had to stop, add extra engines, waste time, waste money. Engineers were told, "Figure it out." They said it was impossible. You can't build a steam engine big enough to pull 10,000 tons over mountains without stopping. The tracks would break. The engine would tear itself apart. Union Pacific looked at them and said, "Build it anyway." And they did. They built a monster. A machine so big that grown men looked small next to it. So powerful that it made every other locomotive look like a toy. They called it the Big Boy. This is the story of Union Pacific Big Boy 4014. A machine built for war, retired by progress, and brought back from the dead 60 years later. Back in the 1940s, Union Pacific had a problem no one else could solve. Their route from Cheyenne, Wyoming to Ogden, Utah went straight through the Wasatch Mountains. A 1.14% grade doesn't sound like much. But when you're pulling 3,600 tons of freight, it might as well be a wall. The old engines needed helper locomotives, sometimes 3 or 4. They'd stop, couple up, climb the hill, uncouple and go back down. It killed efficiency. So Union Pacific went to the American Locomotive Company, ALCO, and gave them a challenge. Build us an engine that can pull a heavy freight train over Sherman Hill, without stopping, without helpers. ALCO's engineers went back to the drawing board. And they came back with something insane. The Big Boy, officially classified as a 4-8-8-4 locomotive. That means 4 small wheels in front, 8 massive driving wheels, another set of 8 driving wheels, and 4 small wheels in back. It was 132 feet long. That's longer than a blue whale. It weighed 1.2 million pounds, 600 tons of steel, iron, and fire. Inside it burned coal, thousands of pounds per hour. It heated water in a boiler the size of a house. That steam pushed pistons bigger than a man's torso. Those pistons turned wheels 6 feet tall. And all of that power added up to 6,290 horsepower. No electricity. No diesel, just fire, water, and steel. They built 25 of them. Each one cost $265,000. That's over $5 million today. When the first Big Boy, number 4000, rolled out of the factory in 1941, people didn't cheer. They just stared, because they'd never seen anything like it. And then it proved itself. On its first real test, Big Boy 4000 hooked up to a train weighing 3,600 tons. It hit Sherman Hill, the grade that broke other engines. And it didn't slow down. It didn't need help. It just climbed. Straight up the mountain, smoke pouring out of its stack, ground shaking under it, and left everyone speechless. For the next 15 years, the Big Boys were the kings of Union Pacific. They hauled coal through Wyoming. They moved freight across Nebraska. They pulled trains loaded with supplies for the war effort. Engineers who drove them said it wasn't like driving a train. It was like riding a living thing. You could feel the fire in the boiler. You could hear the metal groan. You had to respect it, because if you made one mistake, 600 tons of steel wouldn't forgive you. But then the world changed. In the 1950s, diesel engines showed up. They were cleaner, cheaper, easier to maintain. You didn't need to shovel coal all day. You didn't need to stop for water every 100 miles. One diesel could do the work of a Big Boy with half the crew. And just like that, the age of steam was over. By 1959, Union Pacific retired every single Big Boy. 24 of them were sent to scrap yards and cut up for metal. The steel that won the war was melted down for refrigerators and cars. Big Boy 4014 was luckier. Instead of the scrapyard, it was sent to the Rail Giants Train Museum in Pomona, California. They put it on display. A giant, rusting, silent reminder of a time that had passed. For 50 years it sat there. Kids climb. A train. They were hearing history come back to life. Since then, Big Boy 4014 has been touring America. It doesn't haul freight anymore. It hauls people, crowds, memory, pride. When it rolls into a town, 20,000 people show up. They line the tracks for miles. Kids run beside it. Old men salute it. Cameras flash. And when it goes past, the ground shakes. The air fills with steam and coal smoke. And for a few seconds, everyone remembers what it felt like when America built things that were big, bold, and impossible. 4014 doesn't need to prove anything anymore. But every time it climbs a hill, every time it blows that whistle, it's saying the same thing it said in 1941. I can. So what does Big Boy 4014 teach us? First, that impossible is just a word people use before someone proves them wrong. In 1940, engineers said you couldn't build an engine that big. In 1941, Big Boy proved them wrong. In 2014, people said you couldn't restore it. In 2019, it ran again. Second, rust doesn't mean death. 4014 sat for 50 years. Rain, sun, neglect. It looked dead. But the core was still there. The frame was still strong. And with the right people and the right fire, it came back stronger than ever. If a machine can do that, so can you. And third, legacy isn't about money. Big Boy never made anyone rich. It hauled coal. It moved freight. It did its job. But 80 years later, people still talk about it. Still travel to see it. Still feel something when they hear that whistle. Because it mattered. It built something bigger than itself. So the next time you think you're too small, that your dream is too big, that you've been sitting too long, remember Big Boy 4014. It was just steel and fire. But it moved a nation, crossed mountains, died. And then it came back, built for war, retired by progress, brought back by pride. This is Union Pacific Big Boy 4014.